Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Anime Watch Club, a bi-weekly group discussion and review where the hosts of the What Do You Say Anime podcast nominate and vote on shows either that we haven't seen or shows that will hopefully lead to a great discussion. On today's episode, the drifters of the What Do You Say Anime podcast will be reviewing the 2021 original anime, Sonny Boy. Let's meet today's strangely large middle schoolers. First up, he puts the D in initial D, the drift god himself, J Factor, insert last name. Jay, how's it going?
Oh, it's going pretty well. I'm super excited to discuss this, to be honest. I had a great time, so I think this is going to be a good episode.
I think so too. I'm looking forward to our discussion. Secondly, he was accidentally drifted into the wrong world and was left alone. He is the fourth cat. We got Cat. Cat, how's it going?
Uh, I'm probably the weakest cat out of all four in this show,
Uh,
but
You're the
I had
strongest to
a
me.
thank you. It doesn't mean much, uh, but I also enjoyed the show to a lesser extent, but we'll get into that a little bit later.
Right on. In his world, he actually built a rocket ship of love and didn't ride it himself. We got Miles. Miles, how's it going?
Um, it's going good. I don't know how to react to that one. I usually have something. I apologize, everyone.
It's all right. We're glad you're here. Pat.
Well, I was hoping that you were like misleading me before the show and you actually did have something prepared for me this time, but I'll make do. I'll make do with this. Hello. Hi everyone. We were talking about Sonny Boy, the 2021 Madhouse show that was actually from this past season, wasn't it? Or no, it was from
This year, yeah.
summer.
Two,
It
two
was from
seasons
summer.
ago.
Yeah, it was summer. So it wasn't quite the end of last season, but close enough. Studio Madhouse, so studio that's done lots of famous shows, just Death Note, One Punch Man, Hunter x Hunter, High School of the Dead. There you go. That's good. They got some good shows on their resume. They've also got, I believe, are they the studio that does Satoshi Kon as well? I'm pretty sure.
Yes. They're,
Okay,
they're my favorite studio for a reason.
There you go. What do you say? Satoshi Kon comes back and in a indirect way here by watching the show. But yeah, so why don't we start off with our usual first impression, spoiler free. The show is it spoiler heavy? I don't really know. It's hard. It's hard to say if it is or not. Miles, either way, why don't you kick us off with your first impressions and everything else?
Yeah, sure. I didn't really hear anything about the show beforehand, which I think is like a pretty good way to go into it. Because it's like kind of a trip. Um, it's like a very and this includes the first three episodes, sort of like a ethereal almost experience. Um, I think that like the ride it took me on the entire time was enjoyable. Um, and like I have, I guess, like questions or concerns about it overall, but I also don't really know if they matter. It's a weird feeling having watched the show, and um, at the end of the day, I would recommend it. I think that it's pretty. It's worth watching because there's a lot of different things I think someone could take out of it, and I think most people can find something of value with it, if it's your favorite show or you find it okay. I think it's worth watching. It's got a lot of good aspects.
I can agree with that. Kat, what do you think?
So my first impressions from episode 1 to episode 3, I really like. It felt a lot like Lord of the Flies. Like it felt like a straining between two opposite groups of the camp. Like you had the science team, you had the rest of the class, and it really encapsulated me. Um, I Now the rules were kind of like an afterthought at the time. I'm not sure if uh that's how the show tried to structure it, but that's how I felt about it. But as it went along, I it was just really, really fun. Uh, I do think that the show, like episode 2 was probably one of the lesser like it kind of felt a little bit off, but I think it was just because it wasn't focusing as much on the Lord of the Flies aspect as 1 and 3. But maybe that was just me. But that's as far as I can go without like really getting into spoilers.
Yep. No, I understand. Jay, the J Factor. What have you got?
So, first impressions of the show. People who know me know I'm into some pretty esoteric stuff, and so this was a big
Good
vibe for
buzzword
me,
there. I like that
honestly.
word.
Uh, thank you. Um, Honestly, this show it just has like atmosphere in spades. Like from the ambient soundtrack to like the actual music used in it, which by the way was all originally made for this show by one band, Sunset Roller Coaster, who I would highly recommend. Uh, not sponsored, just like them. Uh,
People know we're not sponsored. Trust me.
Well, you're actually missing the big announcement that I was going to make at the end of the show, but
oh
you're now
shit!
sponsored by
Fuck.
Sunset Roller Coaster.
Hashtag
um,
ad. There you go.
Yeah, I think it starts off very strong in the first episode, gets you kind of like really curious about what the power situation is and like how they're going to use them. I do agree with the Lord of the Flies vibes in the first couple of episodes. I really enjoyed it. Like even at the start, I was like excited to see where it goes. I going into it, I had heard like some things about the show that it was a little bit people were saying it was kind of disjointed, and I don't necessarily disagree with that, but I also don't necessarily think it was a bad thing, and that's what my first impressions were even in the first few episodes.
Fair enough. So a couple people have said the Lord of the Flies thing. I agree that that's how it started. Or maybe that's what I wanted out of it. But then it kind of it felt like to me like it didn't execute on it fully. I think that that's maybe something we could talk about later though for sure. Pete, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, I think what caught me right away with this show in the beginning was the fact of the usage of the literary like elements, not elements, but like the books and the stuff that's referenced throughout the entire show was like a huge thing for me. They use the term drifting, and that's in response or in regards to the manga The Drifting Classroom. And I thought that was like a really cool element that they were using these terminologies from prior past to kind of like set the tone for what we're doing. Lord of the Flies obviously is a huge thing. We get Robinson Crusoe, and I believe there's probably some like Easter eggs that I missed too. But I think that I was really drawn into like this world that they were in that kind of was like a world within a book within a world within another book. I don't know. It was crazy. I had a great time watching this. I think Miles said the word that I described it. It was a ride. It was an experience. I would recommend this show for people who enjoy having conversations about shows because I think we're going to dive into it more where the conversation that we're about to have has there's so many questions that I have left to resolve that I need the four of you to help guide me on this path like the acknowledgement of the show because I think there's so many moving pieces that can be missed, and I recommend. I'm hoping we get like Perfect Blue vibes, honestly, and have the conversations that we had back then, and just have a good time. I thoroughly enjoyed the show. I would highly recommend it to anybody looking for something a little different, a little unique.
Yeah. All right. And then I guess I'll go quick. I think the show's weakest points were the very beginning of it. I think it progressively got better and better as I kept watching. So if I were only to recommend based off the first 3 episodes, I probably wouldn't honestly recommend this show. I think I got very, very bored early on watching. I was getting Bakemonogatari vibes all over again, where I was just sitting here saying, they're just talking. They're not doing anything. And then it felt like things would happen, but it wouldn't happen because of what they did. It would just happen because the show decided that they wanted it to happen. So, and that feeling changed a little bit throughout the show, but there were so many moments. Again, we'll get into that later, where I was frustrated by it. So I think um, I would recommend, like what we said. I think this is good for a group discussion But I also think that with the way that we do our group discussion here, it's not going to do the show justice. I think what a real true discussion where we had each watched the show multiple times or had sitting down and taken notes of it rather than just watching it on our own or picking it up here and there. I think that would do it a little better than just like the conversation that we're gonna have now. But I still do think it will be fun to talk about. So um still don't know if I'd recommend it though, because I was constantly frustrated while watching this show. I again, there are so many elements that I enjoyed. The characters are a lot of fun. The um the music, like everyone has said so far, is really really good, really pleasant, and uplifts the story a little bit. But I was very frustrated while watching this to the point of like wanting to just type and type and type, and I held off. But yeah, so I think that that'll conclude our spoiler-free section of our discussion. So now we'll be opening the floor to everything. Please pause us if you plan on watching the show. Again, I think it's really important to watch the show without someone else whispering in your ear the entire time. I think that that's one of the reasons why I avoided um talking to people about it before today, or reading what people were saying, because I think who introduces it to you and how you're introduced to the show can heavily influence your enjoyment of it. Um, so yeah, let's get right into it. Miles, I think you had the first discussion point ready.
Yeah, sure. So this was, I mean, Kat wanted to talk about, I guess, like the first 4 episodes in isolation. Um, so that would be, um, the first 2 episodes of them adrift in space school.
Well, it
And
was
then,
more the first episode with them adrift in space school, and then the second and third episode, them kind of like looking around.
yes. So, um, I guess, Kat, do you have like a specific point you want to start us off on?
So, um, the reason why I wanted to start off with this first 4 episodes in isolation is because the first 3 episodes, like I said in my introduction, is are very reminiscent. Like they have very hard undertones of like Lord of the Flies. Uh, with episode 4, on the other hand, uh, the title is called Monkey Baseball, and it really doesn't add as much as I would like to the story, because with episode 1 through 3 you get like very uh the characters aren't as like cutthroat as they are at, like, the end of the book of Lord of the Flies, but they are like they're looking for a scapegoat. And episode 4 kind of completely forgets about that scapegoat, and basically says, "Hey, let's play baseball with monkeys." Oh, psych, we're gonna listen to this dude talk for 9 minutes about baseball with monkeys and how they killed an umpire. And of course, there's some like philosophical stuff, but I like I I enjoy philosophical stuff most of the time, but when your philosophy has been completely different for the rest of the show, rather than monkeys playing baseball and a dude who taught the monkeys to play baseball. I don't understand. Like I want you guys to tell me,
Okay,
Miles. I want you to convince me that this actually goes with the rest of the show. Because right now
I will,
you've
and then
got your
I'm going to
work cut
let
out for you.
I'll do that, and then I'm going to try to keep this brief because I'm gonna let Jay do a lot of this because I just saw Jay the entire time looking like you just insulted his mother throughout that entire discussion. So it was just he was putting his head in his hands. It was just the
It's one
depression.
point that is just like,
Uh,
yeah, okay,
but
I'll wait.
so like the monkey baseball is literally, so you were talking about like the people are trying to find someone to blame. The whole monkey baseball story is about the monkeys trying to find someone to blame, and they end up blaming the umpire because there was a collective thing that everyone wanted, which was for Blue, was that his name? The monkey pitcher?
Yes.
Yeah, to throw a perfect game. and then he didn't. He fucked up. They went wrong. But people were so fervent in their belief of his ability and in the event that they wanted to happen that they killed the umpire literally. Instead of accepting the bad reality that they were in, they found someone to blame. So it's an entire metaphor based on what happens an episode later where they start blaming our main character. And it's about, it also ties into people's characters where people in the old world had power and no longer have power, and like the whole group dynamic behind it. Is there an argument to be made that like maybe you could have cut down how long that story was or made some more interesting visuals or something while it was happening? Sure. But do I think that story had a lot to do with the overall plot and themes of, especially this early part of the show? I think absolutely. Jay, would you like to expand?
Yeah, I think that. Well, first off, the witch hunt thing is like they solved that in the episode previously. There was no reason for them to really go after, like, continue it. Like the Mizuho thing was done at that point, was it not? Like,
I
yeah,
don't remember the timing super
I'm
well in the
pretty
show
sure.
because
I'm
time
pretty.
is pretty
Yeah,
disjointed.
I'm pretty sure
They
that the
did.
Mizuho thing was done at that point.
Yeah,
So
The
I don't.
Mizuho
episode
thing
3.
was done,
Yeah,
but
like she apologizes for what was her fault, and then says, "But the other stuff
Oh,
wasn't."
I'm talking about the witch hunt on what's his name though.
On the main
Nagara?
character.
Yes.
Yeah.
Nagara.
Okay. Well, if
Yeah.
we could talk. Okay. Well, and then as for like the actual like metaphor of the monkey baseball stuff, if you look at the metaphors in Sonny Boy as a whole, it's all about like growing up and going to work a job and stuff like that. This is
Well, yeah.
about like how no matter if you're a talented person, you can always perceive there to be some unfairness against you if you look at it. It's like about the fact that if you look at how it goes with the characters, you have somebody like Ace who is obsessed with the fact that he is ultra talented and thinks that things should be given to him because of the fact that he was given that talent. And then you have someone like Nozomi who is talented at other things but has no interest. And then you have somebody like Cap who is not talented but still loves the game in general.
It's
Like
Nagara who's talented and has no interest in.
Nagara, yeah, that's
Yeah,
what I meant.
sorry.
Sorry,
No worries.
I used the wrong name there by accident because in names, but yeah.
I gotta say, in this show, I don't know if I felt this more than any other one, but I had no idea who anyone's name was by the end of it. I was so like
I knew
like
most
normally
of
by
them, honestly.
you what?
I knew most of them. I
You
feel
did?
like
Okay, I don't
yeah.
know. Maybe that was just me.
Same.
But like anytime I've watched other shows, it's just like, damn, I don't remember who this. Like I know the face and I know the character, but I could not for the life of me name their name, which I guess is always me though too. So I do that a lot.
For me, it was like if they mentioned the name, I would know who it is. But then if someone was like, "What is this character's name?" like an hour after I finished an episode show, I'd be like, "I don't know." We have
Yeah,
Blue Shirt
exactly.
Girl and Cat Girl and all of that sort of stuff.
Right, and like main guy and like gravity shifting guy and yeah.
So Jay, sorry, continue.
Yeah, I don't know. I just think that the metaphor and it does tie into the themes of the rest of the show if you look at it as a whole. Like maybe not necessarily like the first 3 episodes, but like the rest of the episodes going on, I definitely feel like it ties into the themes of the rest of the show.
Okay.
I agree.
I-
It's because it's like Lord of the Flies, where like they pick Piggy. He's the person that they're targeting because he's like, he's the fat kid or whatever. And then in this case, it's the umpire. He's missing an arm, so it's like targeting the weak guy for your problem because it's easy to pick on the guy with one arm than it is to like actually face your problem. And I'm with Jay. I really enjoyed the metaphor from tying back from episode 2 and 3 with Mizuho and her cat, and then into them kind of playing the blame game with Nagara and his power and like well, he can shift worlds, so obviously it's his fault. It was like really easy to pick on the shy kid, the quiet kid, instead of, you know, someone like Ace who is like out there and strong and tall. And I really enjoyed like that symbolism and that metaphor.
There's also reasons to pick on him where you don't, when you're being emotional as opposed to critically thinking about things. It's not even solely due to his weakness. It's because it is pretty easy to blame, just like it's easy to blame an umpire for a quote unquote missed call. It's easy to blame someone whose power clearly does tie into their predicament for the situation you're in, instead of rationally thinking about it and trying to diagnose the problem like Raj does, right? Like, Raj is able to figure out a whole bunch of things about both Mizuho's power and Nagara's power, while everyone else is freaking out. So I think there's some of that in there too. It's about like our response to difficulties or troubles or, you know, hurdles that come up in life.
Okay.
Convinced, Cat, or no?
I am convinced. But now this leads me to another talking point. And this may be a little bit more egregious and a little bit more offensive. So with all of that said, why didn't they just make a different episode if they're just going to foreshadow what is going to happen literally throughout the next, I don't know, like the next 2 episodes? Because you have episode 4, which, as you guys said, is a metaphor for, you know, being unfair, one, but also having things be unfair against Nagata, who is obviously the umpire, because umpire is also the overseer of the game. And Nagata is basically like seen as the foil for the rest of the group for 2 more episodes, which is
So,
honestly, it kind of feels like a way for them to fill in time.
so what's neat about this particular metaphor is that it does a lot of different things, right? So the umpire isn't just Nagara. The umpire is a few characters. Because remember, a thing about the umpire is that the umpire wants to participate in baseball so bad because he loves and has passion for baseball, but he cannot participate in it because he lacks the natural physical acuity required because of his disability, right?
Mhm.
So think about Nagara, right? Now, Nagara obviously has some similarities with the umpire when you look at like the unfair prosecution for like being some sort of justice defining like symbol of fairness or rules or whatever, like going against the rules, right? Like they're viewing the rules differently than the rules actually are in Nagara's case. But take someone like Cap, whose like whole life is baseball and he loves baseball, but he wasn't as good at baseball as Ace was. He wouldn't make like a living out of it. He just really wanted to participate in it. So like the umpire is also symbolic of like I think, as Pete had mentioned, like quote unquote weaker people in society. People who, in like, weaker is, I think, a little more I don't know. I don't mean the negative connotation that it gives off. Like,
It's weaker, like
people,
you know, like a D1 scholarship basketball player is really good at basketball, but he's not LeBron James. It's kind of like
yeah,
weak in the sense of like you're not
sort of
LeBron James.
that sort of thing. Like, I think that like the metaphor in like in I think like your question of like why don't they do something else instead of do this is like because this like it's not just foreshadowing, it's like retrospective, and we learn a lesson about the world itself while we're there, and about the like this teaches us lesson, which is how the power dynamics have been flipped. You see Ace, after he wins the contest, be very upset and need to be consoled by his girlfriend. Because, like, I think he knows ultimately that what he just did was meaningless. And, like, regardless of him trying to attempt to, like, redefine this world he's in by his skill set, like the old world was, that still fails. Oh, God. Jay, do you have any thoughts on that?
You okay there?
Miles just
Yeah, we're
drifted
honestly,
into another world.
Yeah, holy shit. No, honestly, you were spitting the entire time. You were
Golly,
speaking the
thank you.
language of truth.
Yeah. So, like, I think, I think everything that this show does is very deliberate and has meaning. And I guess, if you guys don't mind, if I could segue this into a point that I wanted to talk about,
Do it.
where I guess have some issues, and I can't decide if they're. I don't necessarily even think it's flaws. I think it's just where the show, like, goes against my own personal taste. Is but it could be a flaw in some cases, I think, where they leave things a little bit too unexplained, where they decide not to delve into things
Yeah.
like this monkey baseball thing. The one for me that I guess was bothered by the most was Miss Aki never being. So we know that she is either a student or some other sort of mysterious force in this world. We know that she's not actually Miss Aki.
I
But
think she. Yeah. Okay. Go ahead. Sorry. I was just
sorry,
thinking
but, like,
loud.
yeah, and, like, I think, like, I think I understand her role in the story, right? Like, she is there as a sort of like a antagonistic force that is a negative influence, on Asakaze and the other students, and sort of steers them away from whatever particular lesson they were supposed to be learning while going adrift, right? Um, that's my view of her, like, what her role is in this story, and I get that, and I think she plays an interesting, like, I enjoy her in that role. What confuses me, or I guess what I wish, was that within, in, like, one meta step down, that we had a little bit more explanation for her.
I
Actually, I'm just gonna.
Do you have to go for a second?
Okay.
See.
Anyways, Kat, do you have thoughts on that?
Yes. So when I was watching the show, I thought
I'll be right back.
that Misaki might have been like a former student, or and like the principal, who is God in this case, like reverse time, because we know that time is a construct in this world, and like reverse time without actually reversing her body or something like that.
Sorry
Or
about that.
maybe that and this is one that I just actually thought of, because in the first episode, uh and this might have been something that you might have overlooked. The first episode, we actually do get, like, not really formally introduced, but like we hear about Misaki.
She's
Uh
mentioned, yes.
Oh,
yes,
well,
in
it
the first
seems.
episode. And she seems to be relegated to, like, doing menial tasks in the, like, teachers lounge, rather than actually doing more effective things. And I'm not sure whether that was because she was a student, or maybe like a student teacher or something like that.
She's the Aki that we see in this world is a copy of Miss Aki before she was employed by the school. Like that is a student version of her.
Do we know that?
Yeah, because I mean it seems pretty obvious based on the information we got about everybody else. Like the time fucky wuckiness doesn't even matter because we see like copies of like Yamabiko and Kodama and shit who we know came after them, you know?
Yes, but hmm, yeah, but she know. Okay, you would need some wibbly wobbly timey-wimey stuff.
I think she's a copy of the real Miss Aki, a student copy of her that went adrift, that was recruited by the principal, more or less.
So just to tag team off what Jay is, because we don't see the only other adult that we see throughout the story is God. So like that leads me to believe that why would Aki be like an adult? And so to me, it's like yes, student version of Aki, kind of like the vibe I was getting.
But so you would think that someone would say, "Oh, she looks younger than we remember her," or something like that. Like they all take her as Miss Aki until the dog tells them that.
But teachers in Japan aren't really that much older, is the thing. Especially like middle school teachers. She would probably be like in her like early 20s. They're definitely early 20s people who can look like high school or like older middle school people at points. And there are middle schoolers who, and let's be honest here, the reason why
had gigantic tits.
Exactly. Let's be honest here.
It's my first input in 10 minutes, and that's what it is. But
but Pat with his insight on the show,
that's just
she
how
did
have
massive breasts.
So how does she look like a high schooler or a middle schooler? Pardon me. Like with the sorry, continue.
Look, please. My girlfriend is a busty woman, and she has talked consistently about how she developed early, and it happens. That's all I gotta say. Like that anecdotal, but it does happen.
No, there was a girl in my middle school who had really big boobs. Like it does happen.
And
but
also, it's not like the people's forms in this world are very consistent. You have a boy who turned into a fucking dog. Like,
yeah, that's true.
I guess my thought is that
she ears to make herself more charismatic or something like that.
Her personality is, by all indication, very different than Miss Aki's on Earth.
Yes.
Okay, so to me, a lot of this was that she was either a different student who has the ability to disguise themselves, like that's their power, or she is some other nefarious force that has like disguised itself as Miss Aki. That was
also, but think about what you're saying, like. Why is she very different? Because the reason why why she was more level-headed and mature is because she was older when the students knew her. The copy that you're seeing is a immature version of her, so of course she acts like a little shit.
But it was also a more cold and calculated. She didn't seem like a more immature version. She seemed like a more evil
people
version.
Change. Yeah, people change, man.
But she would have been like a very... I don't know. I'm not satisfied by this. I don't think that there's any like strong evidence. I'm not saying it's impossible. I'm just saying we don't have strong evidence that she was a...
Look at how different the copy of Asakaze is compared to the real-world version we see of him at the end. And that's even just 2 years difference. Like,
that's Asakaze as a... Well, we don't really see much of Asakaze. Like,
yeah, we do. We see him at the very end, and he's like not like, and we also see a lot of him just in general, like how he would have developed in this worlds and stuff, because he becomes a fucking dickhead.
He's listed as a main character on Mal.
He's literally a main character in the show.
Yeah, but Rajdhani isn't a main character in the show, and I think that's bullshit. So
that is bullshit.
Unrelated, but I agree.
I don't know. Like I just don't. I don't think like middle school Miss Aki was an evil, manipulative mastermind. Like I just don't.
Have you ever met a middle school girl in your life?
Exactly.
Oh my god, was I manipulated too easily?
Hello?
Like what the fuck? Middle school is the worst time of all. It's literally the worst.
The worst years of your life because everybody's going through puberty.
The most cruel people you'll ever meet are middle school students.
I had a pretty good
they will
middle
tell
school
you
experience
to your face that they wish that you died in the womb. Like that, it's fucked up.
No, I said that. I said that last week. So
I've heard middle schoolers say stuff like, "Yeah, that's why your mom's in a fucking wheelchair."
Exactly.
Yeah, but that
I love the Childish Gambino reference.
That's not cool and calculated. That's
Yeah, she
immature
was
and
like
bratty
very
and
like
childish.
Pied
She's
Pipery
had,
to me.
but like the thing about it is like even like you see the elements of her being childish and her wanting the power and stuff, but she's had literally thousands of years into this world to become cool and calculated with actual God on her side.
Okay, now that's possible. It's possible that she is a version of herself that
She's been drifting for a long time. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it is
that's possible.
shown
That's why
in
she's able to
episode-
come and show and tell them the like playtime's fucking over. You know, like she knows that shit is real here.
And it is also shown in episode 11 that her thoughts are like they aren't as cold and calculating as people would want,
Mhm.
as like as she puts on to be. They're more immature. Like this is a pain in the ass. Like
that was
this is
episode 10, I think. But
Yeah,
no,
it was
this
10. It was 10.
yeah, because it was Mind Reading Girl
10 was the
who
mind reading episode.
brought us into that. See that? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
yeah.
I get what you mean with the episode numbers being kind of different.
No, it's hard to tell when things happen because they're not always connected to each other.
Mhm. I
Which
get
is
you.
like how time works in this world. Time isn't connected to itself. So, but it does make it hard to ground to events.
Yeah.
Because the order of events isn't always important.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think she has some Arrested Development going on more or less, but at the same time, she has had like an undescribable amount of time more or less to figure shit out and become calculating and figure out how to manipulate other drifters and stuff like that. Because I mean, look at Raj, how much he changed in like 2,000 years and stuff like that.
Yeah, he
Like,
became a forest at the very end, which is pretty impressive.
like he didn't
Yeah.
even like he didn't even mention that Hoshi was the person he was talking about who invented death, probably, because it wasn't even like who cares, you know? And like
Yeah.
I feel like that definitely would have been mentioned 2,000 years ago or something like that.
I thought
Yeah.
that was a really interesting take on like inventing death, which was like Hoshi was able to
Transcend
like
himself.
to change who he was and in a way that was him dying.
It was like ego death.
That's what happened when
Yeah.
they went into the square. They all just died. They like killed themselves. Is that
No.
what?
So what happened? What happened?
I
is
didn't think that's what happened. Now I'm confused. Like what?
Hoshi and the rest of the students made the utopia that they wanted, but it wasn't really like all that Hoshi had it cracked up to be. So he eventually starts lashing out, and then wants a way to find physical death so he can kill himself, more or less.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The utopia was like the classic utopia problem, right? Where there's no change, there's no purpose.
Conflict
No
gives you purpose
conflict,
in
right.
life.
Yeah. So he tries to create death and like ultimately is able to like evolve past, I think, the desire and need for that utopia and become like a full person, it's implied.
He more or less became like a god, like and just pieced out.
Yeah.
But
it's the last episode of The Good Place. You ever seen it?
I haven't. I should though.
It's really good. Like what happens when you get bored with perfect? Like yeah, you might have fun for like hundreds of thousands of years, but then what?
it does beg the question: is if you can get bored of it, is it actually perfect?
Well, yeah,
but
that's like another thing with it, but like that's kind of like what The Good Place addresses.
Welcome to What Do You Say, The Good Place.
Hey, it's a great show. You should watch
no,
it.
I know I should. I've seen like 5
by
Welcome
episodes
to
of it.
What Do You Say philosophy?
Not sponsored by
you're the
ABC
wrong
or
place
Oh my
for
god!
that.
Please don't subscribe to us for our philosophy takes.
Especially not mine. I'm not a good person.
They're quite textbook.
Can we take a moment to something I think we can all agree upon, just as a small interlude for the listeners? The soundtrack in this show was amazing.
Oh,
It
it was
was.
fantastic.
It's probably
It was
top 5 all time.
so
Yeah.
good.
I really
Big-
liked it, but I wasn't like for me to call it like a top OST. It feels like it has to like enhance the show for me, or like be like super relevant and feel like it. So for me, I really liked the sound and it made it, and I really liked all the songs that were played, but it didn't feel like it like had to be there for the show to work for me, or it didn't feel like it changed the way I viewed the show. It was just like, oh, this is nice, or oh yeah, this is a good song while something was going on. Versus like I don't know, like when I think of like other OSTs, there's like the iconic like booming thing that happens when main character swings his sword every single time, or there's this that happens when um when someone's dying, you hear the little twinkle, blah 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 blah. Like I don't know, something like that. That's what when I think of like how an OST changes how I view a show. Those are the moments that come to mind. And in this case, again, it was like this is all really nice music and it was really fun. Um, but it wasn't like none of the songs are gonna be like, oh, that's when this happened for me. It's just like, oh yeah, this is another nice song from the show. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I disagree, but it does make sense
Yeah.
because like episode 6 when Let There Be Light is playing whenever all that shit is going on is like amazing.
Episode
Like
11 when they're in like the ship thing. Oh, I was started
yes,
crying. It was so
Yeah.
good.
yes. Like
It
I
was
thought it was fantastic.
I think my thing with this OST was that um it was less of a great like transcendent, more like bombastic uh OST, like say Made in Abyss, which is one of my favorite OSTs. Uh
Agreed.
it's more of a it's more of an OST that adds to the show in a way that we're not expecting, almost like,
Ambient.
how this show works.
It's like a
Because
vibe amplifier.
Exactly.
yeah,
Exactly.
because you have episode 11, for example, one of the best sound, like, parts of music, pieces of music in the OST, when they're giving their final send-offs to Nozami. Like, of course, you have this moment where they're sending out this boat, and the music doesn't really go with, like, doesn't traditionally go with the moment, because normally it would be a sound that as soon as Mizuho starts crying, it would dull down and you would hear her crying, but it doesn't. It continues to play as Nagara looks at Mizuho as she's crying, and it adds to the vibe rather than amplifying her crying.
Yeah, there's no
And
words said in that entire scene. Like it
exactly.
was mute. It was just the soundtrack. It was just them paying their respects to their friend that died, and to
Hmm.
me that was like kind of overwhelming, to be honest. I really felt the emotion, and like, 'cause it seemed like like if somebody like passes away, like you want to remember the good times, and they did, and they were like remembering their best friend, and then like at the end they just lost it. Like they
Yeah.
they, they tried, and I thought the music was just mwah, chef's fucking kiss. Oh my god, it was so good. I loved it.
It was good. I just was like, oh wait. I was too busy sitting there like, is she actually dead? Is she
Yes,
dead? Like,
yes,
is she
Yes.
dead? Is she
What?
dead?
She wasn't.
Is she dead?
he's
And
super
no,
dead.
she turns out she
It's
wasn't.
up
So
to
there you go.
interpretation.
So you get no, well,
I don't think it is. They prove it with the
it literally
cat.
is not.
They prove it with the white cat that the cat is able to sense like the presence of Nozomi, and she's no longer there. Like
She does. So she doesn't
Oh.
exist in that world, but she's still alive in the real world,
correct.
right? So
Yes.
Yeah.
One of the real
One
worlds.
of the real worlds,
One of them.
yes. Marvel
That's a cop.
Cinematic Universe.
That's a
love
Yeah.
the
copy
show,
that
man.
doesn't.
Is
Oh
It's a
my
it
cop.
god,
It's a copy that doesn't have like the same memories and shit.
that's true. It's yeah. They all
There's
yeah.
something to say about that. I feel like that is more or less a different person.
Yeah. That's I feel the same way, Jay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I would say that the one they knew is dead, obviously.
Yes.
And then there's a version. It's like, I don't know. The memories have a lot to do with it, I feel like. Also, about Aki Sensei, I feel like another thing that she can symbolize is whenever they knew her as students, she was very kind to them, right?
Hmm.
And with this whole show as a metaphor for growing up, whenever they have to grow up, suddenly an adult they knew in their life is somebody in it for themselves. When they're students, all adults are there to be helpful and guide them. Whenever they have to grow up, there are adults that are in it for themselves, not there to help you, not there to guide you, stuff like
Oh,
that.
yeah, that's interesting. So like whenever they interact with her as the authority figure, she's kind and nurturing, but would they try to be on like an equal footing as her and like challenge her? She can't handle it.
Kind of more or less what I was saying is like look at them crossing into this world as a metaphor for growing up and going into like the workplace and stuff.
It's like the transition though, because they don't all.
Yes, because
Yeah.
they don't always have the same. They don't all do the same thing, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I feel like that's kind of more or less where they were attempting to go with it.
Yeah. It's like a hyperimposed state of being, you know what I mean? Like still a student, but not, you know what I mean? Like you're that in between time, that weird time where we're all in our parents' basements trying to get our first job. And
Some of us still in their parents' basement.
Listen,
I lived in my parents' house when I was Pat's age,
that
so
was not.
Miles with the alley-oop. Sorry, Pat.
That was uncalled for.
it wasn't an insult. I think everyone who is now out of their parents' basement was
Wish
at
I
one
didn't have
point
to
in
pay
their
rent. That sounds
parents'
awesome.
basement.
Or
You know what I
less
mean?
rent, at least.
Yeah.
Like, how old are you, Pat?
23.
Guess where I lived when I was 23.
Yay. I live in my bedroom, actually.
Yes, I lived in my
just
bedroom as well.
I work down here.
I spent a lot of time in my basement playing Breath of the Wild, and Hearthstone.
There you go.
It's-
I am probably going to be back in my bedroom at my
Oh,
mom's
no.
by the time I'm 23, just so I can have more money to spend.
money is a thing that Nozume could have given everyone for free, but chose not to.
Mizuho.
I was just saying,
Mizuho?
wait,
Yeah.
Did I miss something?
She
Like,
understands
no? Okay.
inflation.
Oh wait, that reminds me. They couldn't have given it for free because of the rules and stuff.
No, if she
Can we
says it's
talk-
on the
okay.
house, it's
Oh,
good.
true.
Yeah.
Can we talk about how they both incorporated like
Cryptocurrency
and NFTs
with
Did
the
you guys see-
monkeys, with
did
the
you guys see-
imaginary monkeys.
No, I was talking about Aki Sensei's nice fucking titties.
Oh.
That's just the J factor right there.
That's the
That
J
works.
factor. You know, I was going to the easy joke about the monkeys, but J factor was like, nope, here's the surprise. Oh God. Oh goodness.
All right.
All right, can I talk about some of the things I didn't like about the show now?
Sure.
Sure.
Gladly. All right.
Numero uno.
Yeah, numero uno. What all of these it felt like to me when I was watching this show. It felt like I was reading a visual novel. Did not feel like there were things going on the screen, to be fair. It's not like there was ever Bakemonogatari levels of people literally just standing there and talking, right? Like there was always, oh, the cat's rolling around in the background, or someone spinning in their chair doing whatever. But it all the big complaint for me with this show was it felt like the main characters just experienced things and didn't actually control the things that happen. Like it felt like things happened to them rather than them doing things most of the time. Like and I think a good example of that is in the well, for one, the fact that in the first 3 episodes they change between like 3 different worlds, right? And they don't even they hardly address it. They don't do it. They sit there and talk about it, and then suddenly something changes, and then they talk about it more, and then more things change. Maybe I'm not getting my point across perfectly, but that's how I was experiencing it. The whole time I was just sitting there like they literally like why are these things happening? What is the catalyst for these changes and things that are happening that are so and how do all these things tie together? Miles kind of touched that earlier, but like how does this whole story tie together? It felt like it was like 3 different things just thrown together at once, like throughout the story.
Well, for one, like when you look at it, so okay, so you have this story that is meant to be an allegory for growing up, right? And with your main character, he is later in the show, seen to be an observer. So he's really, even though the show is really about him, he's by design, he's not actually able to influence the story that much. He can go to other worlds and create other worlds. As like an example, like say episode what was it? Let's see. It like episode, was it 8? No. Was it 7? Yeah, it was 7. Uh where he tries to release the ants, and then the ants get on him, and then all of a sudden he's transported into a world with ants. And he gets to see one of his like old one of the people that he met,
Hmm.
and talks to him.
Watches him get eaten alive. That was sick.
Well,
But
no, no,
then,
no, no.
then
I
That
he's
love
was
that.
okay at the end.
that wasn't his friend beforehand. That was a friend that he made there. Uh,
Oh, you mean the bat?
yeah, I'm talking about the bat. Um, like you get to see him experience this world and then realize that he can't stay there because he's got other things to do because he's got a task, but he is also observing different worlds because that's his power. Uh, and I think the way that all of these stories kind of string together is that in a way when you're going through life, you aren't uh s- a lot of times you aren't really driving your own story. Sometimes you are, and sometimes it works like that, but other times, like, sometimes things happen via something else coming out of the way. Like for you, it's coming from something that has no cause or effect, that has no cause, but is affecting you somehow. But in one way or another, somebody has set this up for you. And by it, or somebody has inadvertently set it up for you. And through that, that's how like that's how the show's kind of being structured in my mind. Miles, you
So
might have a
yeah,
little.
I can't speak for Pat, but for me personally, in an episode, like inter episode, most of the causation, I'm totally cool with it. Like intra episode, I think I'm using those wrong maybe, but whatever. Um, that's where I sort of got lost. I think like not necessarily lost, but where I would have loved some fill in about exactly what was happening because I understood what was happening, but I personally would have liked some connective thread between these events. I think the best example that I can give, and Pat can follow up after this to just say his thoughts about it, but like the twin episode, right? The copy episode where the copies are fighting each other. That comes out of nowhere. It just
Literally out of nowhere.
we are dropped in that. And like I liked that story. I thought it was interesting. I would have loved a little bit of preamble and I would have loved a little bit of follow up on that just to help flesh that story out and connect it, uh, without me having to make the connections entirely. Like I think things are connected in like a thematic and meta way in this story, but like narratively, I would have liked more connections.
Yeah,
Um,
I agree with that. Where I just I don't know, man. It was so weird to go, like you said, the twin story is a great example. I'm glad you reminded me of that one. But like, I just was, I'd be watching and be like, oh, did we just skip forward 2 minutes, 2 years, 2 months? What was it? Like, oh, what is this scene transition? What is going on? Like, and that again mainly was between episodes because they say it like 3/4 of the way through the second episode, like, oh, a month has gone by, or was it second 2 to 3? I don't remember, but they say that at a point, and I'm like, damn, I would have liked to have known this, like at least like I would have liked to have had some semblance of an idea, like, and like you can say, oh, time's relative in here, but like no, time exists for them, right? Because they are conscious beings that are experiencing things and experiencing the passage of time. So it is
Mm,
relevant to them figuring out and growing as people and
they're literally in
changing.
stasis. What do you mean experiencing time? They're all in
Yeah, because
stasis.
it's infinity, where
Huh?
like time doesn't really matter.
It doesn't
and-
exist.
It
That's
doesn't
why-
matter.
Then how did
their
he live
bodies.
2,000 years in the
why-
No,
forest?
like it
That's why-
exists, but like
How did he not?
Yeah.
How did he learn or remember anything? Like if it was a true stasis, they would literally wake up the next day and
Never healed.
not remember anything that happened the day before. The whole point is that my point is he experienced a full day's thing and then he slept for 8 hours and then he woke up and experienced a whole nother day. That's 2 days worth of time that has
Yeah.
passed. And sure, maybe it's still July 2nd, even though in his mind it should be July 4th, but that is still time that has passed. That's still experience and memories that he has. That's and I would like to have known, like, oh, hey, we've been building this city or building these things for however many weeks, or we've been um, eating flies for 2 weeks or something.
Time also like has to exist because they experience time at different rates depending on where they are and who they are. Because it takes 2 years for like our main trio to do all of this stuff, and it takes 2,000 years for Raj to get his journey across, and the dog had been there for 5,000 years, and that's like time is relative but still real.
I feel like
correct.
adding those, like, whenever you add the context of that, like the fact that time flows differently depending on who you are, where you're at, that makes it even less relevant. Am I wrong?
I think
Okay.
it makes.
I
I think
agree.
that all of that was very deliberate. I think how long people's journey takes is this is a transition to adulthood, right? Like that's what this is, and that is different for everyone, and it is a blur, and it is hard and confusing, and it's not something that happens in like a well-defined amount of time for a person in particular. And for each person, it takes a different amount of time. Like the
Guess
dog even.
I don't understand what Pat would have gained out of them just turning to the camera and saying, "It has been 7
That's not what he's
days
asking
since
for.
the
He's
last-"
asking for connectivity between the events.
Like knowing, oh, hey, we've spent a month here on this, like even in just a past conversation, like they do in tons of other shows, just a little bit of exposition to explain, oh yeah, we were in this world, but then suddenly got put into the next one, or then this happened, because it happens in between the episodes, but it doesn't get explained to us at all.
It can also
And
help explain a character's mind state. Like, because the longer you are somewhere, they do it towards the end where they just go like, it's been this long and this long. They like do a lot of it in episode 11. But like, I think that like, I don't know. I found that they do it a few times in the series where they've like, and it's been 10 months or something. And it just sort of happened randomly, but it didn't feel like that time had any impact on them. And like, I don't know, maybe that is important. But it was weird and jarring to me. And I think Pat as well.
yeah, I was just always so like, oh, when did we get here, or how did we get here? Why did we get here? At different points of the story, I was just left wanting a little more detail and wanting a little bit more closure too, because there were times where they solved the world that they were in or solved the issues, but then just left or ended up somewhere else, and it didn't feel like they were like, oh, a wormhole opened up and we got sucked to it or something. It's like what happened? How did you get there? I don't know. That's where I was at. Um,
I mean, they seem to have figured out how to travel between the stuff pretty easily at a certain point. So, like, it doesn't seem that big of a deal for them to just be in a random spot, I guess. Like, with the vibe of the show, I feel. Like, maybe it's just expecting different things from the show, but, like, I didn't really mind it that
I
much.
don't. I think that like okay, logically I understand that it fits the show. Like I get that. What I found it personally just jarring. Like you know what I mean? Like it doesn't mean it's bad or wrong for this particular show to have done that, but it was not a quality of it that I liked, and I would have enjoyed this more had there been more connectivity. Would that
I can
have
get that.
like hurt the artistic merit of what they were trying to get. Like, did they want me to feel disjointed? I don't know. Maybe
It feels
it's
like
something I could see.
It feels like looking at a particular painting and being like, I wish this was like Michelangelo or something like that, like an abstract painting or something, and being like, I wish that this had a defined subject that I could just stare at and know, like, you know what I mean? Like, it feels almost
I think that's the show in general. At least that's
like
kind of
I
like what the
feel
vibe
like
I'm getting from it.
See,
I don't know a better way to phrase this, so please don't take it like offensively. It feels almost like you wanted it to be spoon-fed a little bit more or less. Like
yeah,
I
I
don't,
did want to. I mean, that's what I'm saying. I'm not.
and
That's not.
I don't think the show is ever in the business of doing that. Like I feel like it's approaching it the wrong way almost.
I don't think I'm approaching it the wrong way because I I don't know. I think Pat and I understand why the artistic choice was made, and like I just
I don't
don't.
disagree with not I don't disagree with not vibing with it or feeling different about it. Trust me.
Yeah,
But
like that I guess like that's just at least my thought. Like I think I don't want it to do it too much because I do understand the need to have these jumps. They didn't feel as impactful to me because the connectivity between the events wasn't enough. Like they were so isolated
It didn't feel
narratively.
it didn't feel like they learned and went, okay, we are taking what we learned from the first part or from the first world, right, and then applying it to the next, and then applying it to the next as much. Maybe is that a better way to put it? Because like I don't know. It like I agree with like I get that it is a narrative decision to not tell the audience everything, but I think I still want it to make sense, and I still want there to be
To build on itself in some way.
final conclusion or some way for it to build to something, and it didn't feel like to me like we got that at a lot of the points, I guess. But yeah, so that is something that we can keep talking about on our own, I guess, because we clearly have
Hey
we've
Pat,
touched
where
a
can we
lot.
talk about that?
Wow, we could probably talk about that in our Discord. Wow,
Yo, sick plug.
thanks, Pat. There. God, that was the worst one yet. But
Yes.
yeah, come join our Discord. It's fun. We talk about anime a lot, believe it or not. And
You like
we
anime? No way.
no, I don't. You know
We,
that.
we
Yeah, like what?
Pete,
No.
Pete's the only one
Check
in
our
the entire
Discord for
Discord
it.
who likes anime.
Yeah,
We all know.
obviously. We know that because yeah.
Pete has us all trapped in his dungeon.
Please,
Or
someone
parent,
save us. We're in
yeah,
Minnesota.
he has the key to my parents' basement. There we go. Full circle. All right. Yeah, but let's move on to our final thoughts and scores. So yeah, let me get my little calculator out. Why don't we start with Miles? Miles, what is your final score
Sure.
and
My
thoughts?
my final score. You know what? We're gonna reverse this. I'll give my final score. I'm gonna give the show an 8. I liked the show. Um, as we were discussing at the end there, I think that like I wish it was structured like a little bit different in parts, but I ultimately think even if it just like gave me the heebie-jeebies in a bit of a way that I didn't like and didn't find a ton of value in, that doesn't mean that that's like valueless. So I'm not really deducting it um a ton for that. I liked the characters. Um, I thought they had really good character development, which I think is really important for a show like this. Like I think that honestly, like that is probably the most critical thing for a show that is trying to deliver the message that the show is to deliver, and I thought they did a very good job. Um, I can't believe that we didn't talk about the ending of this show in the time that we did that. So I'm going to give my opinions on the ending really quickly. I liked it. I think that Nagara maybe made a little bit of a mistake by not shaking her hand at the end there, but he does seem like that's something he's working towards, and that he at least took the messages he learned to heart and is changed for the better, all in all. He's helping the birds this time around, and that is good. Watch the show. It's good. 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10. Alrighty. Kat, what about you?
So my final thoughts are as follows. I thought the show was a bit jumbled in hindsight. In hindsight, the pacing was all over the place, but the way that the show was structured, it kind of works in its favor. My main factor for rating the show was how enjoyable it was, and there have been several times where this show had my full attention and interest in the world. Uh, but my interest, but there were also times in the show where the characters felt flat, my interest waned, and the dialogue meant literally nothing. Uh, and excluding the dialogue and the characters, the visual storytelling paired with the music does give this show a high base score. And because the majority of the show had me in the palm of his hand, my final score is an 8. I did dock some points because of episode 4. Uh, although it has been explained to me. Now if you can't tell, I'm actually, well, for our audio listeners, I'm actually reading from my final thoughts that I typed up before we actually did the episode. So I would actually like to raise that to a 9 because episode 4 was explained to me.
Jay feels
Um,
vindicated. He's like, oh,
We got
he's
there.
like slowly putting down the bat that he had gotten to kill Cat with.
yes, halfway across the country.
Or the
but
bear trap, right? Isn't that what they used to catch the cat?
Oh, yeah, look at that. Good job,
God
Pat.
damn.
Yeah, I
Uh,
did watch the show. I did pay
Yes.
attention. There we go.
Sorry,
Also,
I'm sheathing my blade.
also the end didn't answer many of the questions I had. They answered some, like what happened to Hoshi's group, although I had hoped they would have had a full episode on it and not just a monologue from Raj Dhani. Although Raj Dhani, best boy. Um, but others like who Misaki is in this universe is, or were all of the students from the same year when they went adrift, or like the same actual physical year, not like third, fourth, and fifth grade. You know what I mean? Or were some of the students from different years? From the unanswered questions to my reaction to episode 4, which has been edited, my final score is again an 8, and I only docked.
Wait, is
And
it
I
an
only
8 or a 9?
nine,
Nine,
nine. Sorry,
okay.
I'm
Oh,
uh,
thank you. Good job, Kat. All right, Jay, what have you
but
got?
All right,
hold
you
on.
know what?
Oh,
I still had a
Kat,
little
you
bit.
did?
Yes. Because I just wanted to mention best girl, Mizuho, best boy, Rajdhani. Best character is also Rajdhani. And worst character is Asakaze. Cause fuck that dude.
Asakaze gets the girl, though.
Yeah.
You only like him because he's Neto rare.
I will say, it was confirmed by the director that that relationship fails.
Ah,
Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense.
Miles.
Still beat though.
Yeah, yeah.
There we go. All right. That was a tasteless joke.
That,
Sorry.
that was
Jay, go
terrible.
ahead.
That was... Okay, so I'll make it quick. Look, I'm gonna keep it straight with you. This was probably one of the most enjoyable anime that I've watched in a long time. I was vibing the whole time. I love weird esoteric stuff. I loved the art. I loved the music. The characters were pretty sick. I liked the powers. And you know what? I was thinking about rating it a little bit lower, but I'm going with my heart. I'm listening
Do
to
it.
my heart when it's calling to me. I'm giving
Heart
this
of
a
the
10 out of 10.
Let's
I'm giving
go.
it a 10 out of 10.
Absolutely. You should do that. When you feel something's a 10, give it a 10.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Making an
Fuck
effort to
what-
be,
fuck
I'm
what
making an
Pat
effort to be
says.
less strict about my ratings this year because I've regretted how low I've rated some stuff in the past.
I've
So,
regretted
10
how
out of
high I
10.
rated Undead Unluck in Manga Club, so don't worry.
It still counts as a 9, baby.
It
Also-
Oh,
does.
by the way,
Yeah.
we have a manga club on our Discord if you want to join.
Yes.
We do.
Sick
Yeah.
plug,
I'm
Ken.
all the J factor is always there as well.
Get your own thing.
I do have my own thing as a Mansa reviewer.
Yes.
Yeah, Raj is best boy, best girl is. You know what? I like Mizuho, but I like Kodama a lot from what we saw of her. She was fucking cool. Very sweet girl. And yeah, this show is great. It's fantastic. I would definitely say watch it. I don't think that we're doing it justice in a way because I feel like you could do a podcast episode about each episode discussing the metaphors and philosophy in it.
Yeah.
Sounds like a mini series that we can do.
It would be fun at some point. I'd be willing to do it.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, that's my final thoughts. 10 out of 10.
Love it.
This is the J factor coming into our
Love
scoring.
it.
Pete, what about you?
Yeah, I'm on Jay's side. This was one of my most favorite show I think we've watched in Watch Club. The best way to describe it, it was a ride. I don't get that often. I was like looking through my like top 100 of like shows that were like a ride. Gurren Lagann, that was a ride. Trying to see some other shows I went through.
You watched Perfect Blue on Watch Club?
Perfect Blue,
Yeah.
a fucking ride. Holy crap. Yeah, I did. I have to mention Perfect Blue, 3 times an episode, but man, just so enjoyable. I think for me, the episodes, I know people had problems with it. I kind of compared it to like Violet Evergarden, where like there was like like different types of stories being told in this like linear line of like a main story. I could definitely see the problems that Pat and Miles brought up, 100%. But for me, it was
Agreed.
like it was something completely different. I was so entranced by the story. I was so entranced by the characters. I love them. I had to change my best boy nominations because now surprise, Rajahani is a nomination for best boy of the year. Because holy what, I don't even know
It
how
was incredible.
he is the embodiment of cool. What just a cool, just so cool. I love Rajahani. I wish we got a little bit more, but I'm glad with the time that we got him.
I do want to mention one more thing.
Oh, okay. It's
Raj-
fine. It's not your fault.
Yeah.
No, I get it.
But Raj Dahani is also actually voiced by an Indian person in the actual dub, which is
Oh, that's sick.
amazing.
Yes.
That is sick, actually. Wow. I was going to look that up. That's cool. Continue, Pete.
Back
sorry.
back to what I was
hearing it,
saying.
yeah.
Yes, just we didn't even talk about a lot of like the middle episodes. The ride from episode like 5 to 9, 10 was okay, but in 11, I had a really hard time like picking like the best episode because I thought so many of them were just wonderful. I think 11 was my personal favorite by a slim margin just because of the music during the scene where they're in like the, what's it called? The whatever, the
Shuttle.
space station thing that they're in, like
Yeah, the shuttle.
the shuttle. Just a wonderful experience. Thoroughly enjoyed the show. I think it's borderline a 10, but not quite. But man, what a great show. If we had like decimals or whatever, high 9, I'm gonna give it a 9. Love the show.
Okay, so you're on Jay's side, even though the difference between me and you and Jay and you is the same.
No, mine's a high 9.
High
You
8.
gave it an 8. Yeah. But you gave it an 8, so if you gave it a 9, then yeah, it'd be the same. I'd be on your side calling him out on this. But yeah, okay. Now time for the naysayer. I liked a lot of aspects of the show. I really liked the characters. I liked the music. It was very pleasant. Animation was what it was. It's kind of like just very madhousey. It was it fit the story too. It didn't feel. I was frustrated throughout watching it. I was just getting frustrated, and I don't think even after being explained things, I kind of wish it wasn't so non-linear. I wanted it to be more linear, and I guess it's not really the show's fault, but it sucks that this is a personal review, So there you go. I wanted it to make more sense to me because I felt like when it was doing things narratively interesting, I thought it was really good. Like with the whole um with what's her name? God, Nozomi's death. It's like symbolic for how it felt so unceremonious that I was like, what the fuck? Did that actually just happen? Is she actually dead? And it's like, that's supposed to be what life is actually like, right? People just die sometimes. People are gone. And it does, you don't see it coming. It just happens. And it's like, doesn't matter who it is, doesn't matter where they are, what they're doing. I thought that was really well done, right? Like that was great. But then there are other times where I really could not follow what was going on. I couldn't follow how they tied together the worlds and what they were doing. Um, Raj was like so sick, but like also why is he so all-knowing and smart? Like, what's the deal with that? You know, like I don't know. There's so many things that I was just frustrated by. That it's like, oh wow, it's like they're experiencing these things that are happening, but they're not necessarily highlighting it themselves. They're not really. It didn't feel like to me like they were so in control of what's going on. And I get that there's that aspect, like, oh, you're not that in control of your life sometimes, but that's only sometimes. Most of the time, you do control what happens in your life, right? You do have some sort of impact or, um, I don't know, effect, I guess, on your own life. Your decisions lead to what happened to you. So I didn't feel like that was always the case for the characters. So I am going to end up giving this a 6 out of 10. So I hate to bring the average score down so significantly, but
I thought it was actually going to be lower.
Could you imagine if Johnny was here, how much lower the score would be?
Did Johnny not
Yeah.
like the show?
I doubt he watched it.
he didn't watch it, as far as I know. Poor Johnny, a little sick right now. He's big chilling, but yeah. So our final average score, would be an 8.4. I believe is what I
I mean,
calculated
that's
it as.
significantly higher than the Mal average. So
Yeah, the
Yeah.
Mal average is a 7.67. So that's yeah, we apparently we have worse taste than Mal. That's
Well,
shocking.
we have the best taste.
I'm kidding. Better taste than Mal, blah 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 blah. But yeah, that wraps up our discussion of Sonny Boy. Again, we'd love to talk about it. Come join us. Come talk about it with us. Leave a comment below if you don't want to join the Discord. That's fine as well. And yeah, Miles,
not
why
fine.
don't you tell us what we are watching 2 weeks from now? Because this is gonna. Yeah, please tell us about this show. I'm very curious.
will I ever? 1 second. Let me do the final math. So in third place we have Sound Euphonium. In second place we have the J Factor himself, Fully Cooley. In first place, let me make sure I got this title correct. It's quite long.
It
Oh,
is
the
very
hash
long.
show one?
Oh
Yes.
no!
Let's go!
Yes, this show actually won.
We have my mental multiple choice power is completely ruining my school romantic comedy. So through a lot of people throwing it in their like third or second place option and just being like, why the fuck not? And then me voting for it first, and someone else voted for it first. I forget who it was. It managed to win. I am surprised. But that's what we're watching. So, Fully Cooley and Sound Euphonium get a legacy point. But they will not be re-upped this time because this time is our 2 core nomination.
Let's go!
Yeah, so now we are nominating for, it looks like it'll be February the 7th. That'll be the Monday after the Super Bowl, I believe. So that'll be tiring. But yeah, we'll be watching a 2-core show. We did this last year, where we all nominated and voted on watching Shinsekai Yori. That was a show that we watched. Yeah.
Fantastic show.
Similar to this show, a show where everyone besides Pat gave it a high score.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's the powers, man. It just does you in every time.
Yeah, no one talked about that. Why does his power change 3 fucking times in the show? Never mind. No, we can talk about it. No, that's also what. Maybe that'll make my comment there will make my lower score make more sense
If
because
you
I
want to
realized I
talk to
didn't say
Pat
that much
about why
negative
he's
about it.
wrong, you can join the Discord.
Yeah, there you go.
Get some context for why he feels the way he does. I'll explain it to you if you join the Discord.
Yes. We're trying to do some mind
We're in the
control.
Discord.
stuff.
It's not a suggestion.
Yes,
Oh,
there
God.
you go. Cool guys. All right, but now anyways, back to what we were saying. So now we can nominate. Normally we're limited to only 12 to 13 episode or one single movie titles. Now we are opening the door to any 2-core show or set of movies that equates to 2 cores. So, the reason Johnny wasn't able to make it tonight as well was because he was sick. So we are not exempting him or not letting him not nominate. So, Miles, what was his nomination? Just
Sure.
get it out of the way.
I have successfully bullied Johnny into nominating Toradora.
Oh my
So-
god.
So we
That
can
would be a 3-hour-long episode.
we can
Oh my
finally
God.
settle this once and for all.
Yeah, let's do it, Miles. You and me together. You and me versus the world, baby. So that's Johnny's show. It's Toradora. Yeah, you watch your mouth around me too. Better not say that word. Uh, Miles, what's your show now?
I will be nominating a show that I have meant to watch for a long time and have never gotten around to, Mushishi.
Ooh, nice.
Mushishi. Okay, I respect it. That's a good one. That's a good one. Kat, what have you got?
So, I mentioned this a lot in the Discord. Again, join the Discord. It's not a suggestion. A lot of people really don't like the show. Some
Oh dear.
really do. But I've never watched it, and I want to know why. And I feel like this will be a very good discussion. I'm nominating Fate Apocrypha.
Oh no, Cat, why?
Why?
Wow, a Fate show. Oh, I'm kind of intrigued.
No, Pat, no. God,
No,
honestly, me reacting like this might make people vote for it. Please don't vote for this
Please!
show.
Do it!
We did Shield
I-
Hero and Manga Club. We
I
don't need
hate this show. I hate it.
Every time we do something, every time we do a show that Miles hates, we have a great episode. You know this.
That's true, but I've already watched the best version of Fate, so I don't feel the need to vote for it. Don't worry, Miles. You're safe.
Oh,
My
come
vote is safe.
on.
Hey, you can't beat zero, man. Jay, what have you got?
I am going to nominate the best thing Wit Studio has ever done. I'm nominating Peak 10. I'm spoiling my score already. I'm nominating Peak 10 out of 10 fiction.
Yep.
I'm nominating Vinland Saga.
Yes, sir.
That's a good one too.
Ooh, I thought Owari no Seraph, though. You said the best thing that they've ever done?
Vinland Saga shits and farts on Seraph of the
Yeah, I
End.
don't even know what that show is. I just looked up the first mid-ranked show they had and said it. Okay, Vinland Saga.
Okay, Pete, what about you?
I'm so excited for this. I am so excited for this. As you know, as the voice of the people, I give the people what they want. And what's
Cowboy.
Nope.
He used the white.
I was thinking about doing Cowboy Bebop, but I decided not to. Instead, I wanted to culture us on the 5th highest grossing franchise in Japan of 2021. It is
Hello Kitty?
It is a show that transcends not only anime, but games, light novels, merch, plushies, waifus, and all of the above. I am nominating Uma Musume Pretty Derby Season 1 and 2.
I knew it. That's got my vote.
I was like, Evangelion? What are we doing? Like, what's going on here? Is
You
it
didn't say
Eva? Like,
okay, so
It
Pretty
actually,
Derby.
it actually beat Evangelion's record for DVD sales.
Yes.
For a second,
Uma
I thought you
Musume
said,
Pretty Derby Seasons 1 and 2.
when you were introducing that, I was expecting you to say like fucking Digimon or Pokemon or fucking Hello
No, I'm
Kitty.
talking about franchises that make money.
Hello Kitty makes shit tons of money.
Yeah, Pokemon's the highest grossing
It's
franchise
true, yeah.
ever, and
Yeah.
Hello Kitty, I believe, is number 2.
Yes.
So,
But I'm talking about 2021.
oh, okay. You want that 2021 money?
Yes, I want that new money. I don't want that old money.
The
I want
old
that,
money smells.
NFT money.
That nouveau riche.
$1 million idea. We're NFTing the Pretty Derbies. Let's get that on the blockchain right now.
I feel like
what the fuck is happening right now?
Who knows? Pat, you're up.
I don't
It's a
know.
fever dream, man. What the hell? All right. Yeah, my show. I'm smart. I'm gonna renominate the show I did last time because it has a legacy point. You know, me always finishing second place. That's
Very
usual.
smart.
It's
It's
gonna be
also
another 5 years before it wins.
yeah. You know, that's okay. It'll eventually win. I will will it to victory. But it's I don't know. It's something that's always fascinated me because I've heard. I think it'd be a good discussion too because it's been said that it was a show that started out really strong and then crashed and burned in its finale.
Can I
That
try to
would-
remember what it was?
Yes, go ahead.
Guilty Crown?
Yes, there you go.
Okay.
It is Guilty Crown. It looks cool. Badass OP, you know, that's very catchy. Very pretty colors. and production IG too. So that's always a good thing. I think at least in terms of quality, that you expect quality out of them most of the time. So I don't know, man. I think it sounds sick, and um, yeah, that's Guilty Crown. So yeah, those are our nominations for God a month from now
I can't
almost.
wait.
That'll be interesting. God,
Hugged
I'm
out of
gonna
my
have to
gourd.
watch so much anime this
I'm
month.
hugged.
I still have Secret Santa. I've got Watch Club again. We've got other shows that are airing right now too. My goodness, maybe I'm coming out of retirement. Who knows? Um, the narrator in the background, he was
Pat
not
is now
coming out
the
of
second.
retirement.
Pat is now the second person in this Discord that watches anime.
Yeah, maybe. He won't be. Don't worry. But anyways, that wraps up our watch club. So thank you guys for listening. And Pete, why don't you take it away?
Yes, we are entering my favorite time of the year. It is Anime of the Year season, boys. Next episode is our nominations. We have 17 categories that I will be listing. You get to vote on it. You get 2 weeks to vote. If you vote, you are entered into a drawing to win a $50 Amazon gift card just by participating. How cool is that? Help me help you. I'm going to be doing a special live stream on Saturday. If you are interested in watching that, it's going to be Saturday evening. You'll have to follow me on Twitter because I'll tweet it out then, or join our Discord. I'll make an announcement of when that's happening. So, Anime of the Year nominations, cannot wait. Cannot wait for the Anime of the Year awards itself. It's my favorite episode all year, minus whenever we do a show like Sonny Boy, because that was such a ride. Other than that, Watch Club. In 2 weeks, we will be watching that light novel that I don't even want to pronounce, The Has Show. So thank you so much for listening. Oh, like, comment, subscribe, leave a review on whatever platform you're on. Even if you're that one guy who left us a 1-star review on Apple Podcasts today, that's fine. I just wish you would expand on why you think I have trash taste, even though I am the self-proclaimed taste of...
Rent free in your head.
Rent free. I mean, as the voice of the people, I just want to know where I failed. So
It was me.
Right,
I did
right
it.
now.
damn, I knew it. This is as kind of like Nozumi. This is our final goodbye to Miles as he is kicked off the podcast and he will never be seen again unless we.
Thank God I
drift
don't need
into
to watch
the-
Fate Apocrypha.
That's true. But thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks for that light novel where things happen and there's multiple choices. So thanks a lot, and we'll see you next time.